Hi, I'm Kerry. I'm a retired financial advisor. There's my master's degree there, CFP, CHFC, CLU. This channel's different than my other channel. My other channel is Best of Us Investors, and we're all about where you should invest your money, and that's greed and all, This channel's more about what you do with your money in retirement and how you live your retirement and how you enjoy your retirement. And I'm happy to say that some of you have responded with some questions, and that's how I'd like to kind of run this channel, particularly relative to financial planning and what I made my living doing. And I got a question from Gabe, and we're going to call him Gabe G. Gabe and his wife want to retire at 62 and early, and they both have a pension coming. They have a 403B, and what should we do with that? And how should we qualify for our Social Security? And should we open up a Roth IRA? But the most important part of this synopsis that Gabe gave me was the last thing he said. They have a disabled child, and that changes the retirement planning entirely. And I'm happy to say that I had a couple of occasions to deal with this situation for my clients when I was a financial advisor, and it's one of the most proud things that I've did as a financial advisor, because they had a situation. Think of if you don't have a disabled child. In essence, what's happening is your financial responsibilities for someone other than you and your spouse lives beyond you. Could live 20, 30 years beyond you. So how do you provide for them within the structure of the current financial situation? So I'm going to cover that last, because I think some of the other things are very pertinent and to a lot of people's situations, and a lot of people can learn from it. So let's first of all deal with the cost of living. What does it cost to retire? What's it cost to live? Well, it costs all of us a different amount, because we all have different lifestyles and we've become accustomed to different things. So what I suggest to people is what we used to charge for, and that was create a financial plan. And what we would do is we would give you a form to fill out, and then we would take the numbers that you gave us and we'd plug them into a program, and it would project your life out through your death and basically come up with your cost of living. Well, you can do that yourself. And that's what I'm going to suggest that Gabe and his wife do. And that's create an Excel spreadsheet and go to your bank account or your checkbook or whatever and itemize what it costs you to live every month for everything. So what do you have coming in and what do you have going out? Now you know what it costs you to live. Now then, take and put a second sheet on your Excel down on the bottom, go to the second sheet and copy and paste over on the second sheet what you produced on the first sheet. And now you and your spouse sit down and say, how is life going to change? What is going to be different? First of all, what are we going to reduce? Maybe travel to and from work and things of that nature. But what is going to increase? Are we going to travel? And how many years are we going to do that traveling? Do we have some financial obligations that we still have to take care of, like maybe helping our children with college expenses and things of that, and project out. And I'd suggest you do it for like the first 5 years of retirement. Then go down and take section or sheet 3 and make copy and paste 2 on 3 and then do it for the remainder. Because what you're going to find is if you're inclined to do traveling, you're going to do that in the first 5 years of your retirement. And you're going to have a higher expense as you're early in retirement as opposed to late in retirement. So build that. This is your financial plan. Okay? This basically tells you what it's going to cost you to live the rest of your life. Now you know how to allocate your assets. So let's start with Gabe and his wife's first assets. I want you to think of them as buckets of money. And the first bucket is their pensions. And their pensions can, as I understand his question, he can either take an annuity, and that is a sum of money that is, or a monthly sum of money that is guaranteed you for the rest of your life. Your next decision on that is, do I take survivor's benefits or not? Now, that then comes into the question of health and longevity. If one of you is terminally ill, by all means, you want to take survivor's benefits, because if you die 8 months after you retire, your spouse continues to get your benefit at a reduced amount, but he or she still gets to take the benefit. The other option, I understand from what Gabe says, is he has the ability to take a lump sum and then roll that over into an IRA and self-manage it. And basically what I would say to you, Gabe, and this is for he and his wife both, that is a decision of how much time do you want to spend on managing your money, if you're going to self-manage it, or if you're going to turn it over to someone else to do it, and you're going to pay them a fee to do that. Now, the other thing that I think comes into this equation in Gabe and his wife's situation is, again, this obligation towards their disabled son, that if they take the annuity, when they die, that's all gone. If they take the lump sum and manage it themselves or have someone else manage it, and they do an adequate job of it, there is something left when they die. So my guidance to you at this point would be to take the lump sum, and then you determine how you're going to manage it, whether someone else is or you are. And that's your decision. I can't help you with that. Okay? That's, again, and if you don't have this disabled son in your equation, then you might make the other decision. But again, that's going to be answered by that spreadsheet that I'm suggesting you make. Then we get to Social Security. And here again, this is, when do you take it? Do you take it, and as I'm guessing, they're in their 60. And it says, do we retire at 62 or 67? Again, this depends on that spreadsheet and how big that pension or now self-managed IRA is, and how you deal with it. But again, for Social Security, you need to know that whoever has the largest sum for Social Security, when they pass away, the spouse will get the larger of the two. Again, you want to plug that in to your income part of your spreadsheet. Then bucket number 3 is variable income. It seems they have a 403B, which tells me they are working for some sort of a governmental organization, or maybe a school or something, because most of us had what was called a 401k. A 403B is usually the similar to a 401k for either a nonprofit or a governmental organization. They may be teachers. So with that in mind, he says, what should I do with that? Well, my advice to you would be to roll it over into a self-managed IRA, and probably you've got two of them, one for her and one for him. And again, make that same decision. Are you going to self-manage it, or are you going to turn it over to a financial advisor? Then he asked me, in these last couple of years, should I open up a Roth IRA at 60? My advice to you is, if you're 59, 60 years old, no. What you're doing, and if you're going to retire at, say, 62 or 67, that means your retirement is either 2 or 7 years off in the future. What you need to be doing now is building a cash reserve. And that is to say, put it in a interest-bearing or a bond. I would probably lean towards a AAA rated bond fund, so that where you're pretty much guaranteed what your interest rate's going to be, and more than likely, unless interest rates go up substantially, the value of your bond is going to stay pretty consistent. Because what you don't want to do is retire and have all this money in investable assets, and the stock market crashes. And we know from history, a stock market crash is a temporary thing. So I want a cash reserve that will support me, again, go back to that spreadsheet, for 1 to 2, maybe even 3 years. So that if in fact in I've rolled my pensions over into a self-managed or an account managed, and I've rolled my 403B, and they're dependent on the performance of the stock market. I don't want to take on that risk. Now, what am I losing by putting this in a cash reserve account as opposed to more stocks? I'm losing on the potential growth of those assets over either a 2 to 7 year period of time. And my real skew would be, you want, if you're going to retire at 62, by all means, you need to direct that extra money you were going to put into a Roth IRA into a cash reserve. If it's at 65, now you've got maybe 5 years. Still, I want that cash reserve so that in fact I can sleep well at night if the stock market crashes. But the gains that I would have had, that if the market does go up 8% in a year, they aren't that much different than the interest I'm going to be making on my bonds. Okay, I just don't want the risk. All right, and you're planning for not just the next year or 2 years. You're planning for the rest of your life. So I want that cash reserve. Then we come to the estate planning, and this, I'm not going to get into trust and all and that sort of thing relative to a couple who doesn't have a special needs trust. And Gabe, that's what you're looking for. It's a special needs trust. And for a very clear explanation, type in what is a special needs trust on Google, and the lady on your phone will come back and tell you exactly what it is. In an overview, here's what it is. When you pass away and you leave all these assets you've accumulated to your son who is disabled, you basically put him in a position, in order to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, he has to spend all those down. If in fact he is in a home while you're alive and getting care, they'll evict him. They'll evict him because he's there as a result of Medicare or Medicaid, because he doesn't own anything at this point. But once you die and you leave it all to him, he no longer qualifies for Medicaid. All right? So you don't want to put him in that position. And there are a number of government relief programs and education programs and things that he can qualify for if he doesn't own anything. So what you don't want him to do is own anything. So you channel everything that you've accumulated here into a special needs trust. And what that says is that he has a trustee. Maybe if you have another child that really cares for him, or a lawyer or whomever, and what that says to the home where he's living and the education needs that he's receiving, if Medicare won't pay for it, we will. And the we will is the special needs trust. All right? And so he continues to qualify for his benefits, but he has the benefit of stepping up and saying, or someone on his behalf saying, we would like this for him as well. And not while we don't want to jeopardize his Medicaid, this is how it will be paid for from the special needs trust. Now, who's the ultimate beneficiary of that special needs trust? That's another thing that, Gabe, you need to decide. What I suspect is if you have other children, that's who will be the beneficiary of it. That might also bring into the equation, how much do you want to put in that special needs trust? Maybe you just carve out part of your assets to provide for your special needs son, and then you have other children, and you can then make them the beneficiaries of that part of your estate when you pass away. Okay? I hope that gives you a good overview. But it's a complicated situation, and it's a right or wrong situation. So do not go and do this all based on what I've told you. Go find yourself someone who knows what I'm talking about. And the way I would do that is, first of all, I talk to my friends and say, do you have a financial advisor that you trust and you do well? And one of the first questions I would ask them, first question I always ask a financial advisor, how long have you been in this business? Okay, how educated are you? In other words, are you a CFP? Are you a CHFC? Are you a CLU? Not so much that you need to be that in order to answer my questions and serve my financial needs. That tells me how committed are you to your profession. Or are you just here gathering assets and making a living and paying your mortgage and paying your car payments and paying for your kids' college education? How interested are you in your profession so that you can help me achieve what I want to achieve? Okay? Question number one, how long you been in? Question number two, do you have any certifications? And for you, Gabe, are you familiar with a special needs trust? And if they say no, get up. Or ask him, do you have anyone, could I speak to your manager? Do you have anyone in your firm who is familiar with a special needs trust? Because truly, Gabe, this is the critical part of what you're doing, because it will affect everything. It's on the bottom of the page. It will affect everything on the top of the page. And this is your obligation, and obviously you recognize it. So this is what you want to make sure gets done and gets done right. So when you lay down in that coffin, you know you've done everything that you possibly can for your son. Okay? I really enjoyed doing this video because I looked at my profession and the way I approached my profession as I was a doctor of finance. And every day I could have an effect on my clients, my clients' lives. And that's what this video has allowed me to continue to do. I believe that beyond Gabe, somebody else, 10 other people are going to watch this video and say, holy shit, I didn't know there was anything called a special needs trust, and that my son, my daughter, could be kicked out of the facility they're in because when I die and left them assets, I disqualified them for their Medicare. Think about that you have a special needs and you've been in a facility for the last 5 years and you got friends and you have a life. And your parents die, and that's bad enough. But The administrator shows up and says, Bruce, you got to leave until you spend down your parents' assets. That's what was going to happen to this lady, a widow who was providing to her son. And I found this thing, and I mean, my heart just grew that her son was going to be provided for even after she passed away. So that's this. That's what this YouTube channel is all about. If you like this sort of thing, if you like the way I present it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe. Let's grow this, because let's grow this. This is where 1 million people, because you all have these kinds of questions and you don't know anybody to ask. If I can't give you the answer, I can probably point you in the direction. And that would mean a lot to me. Okay, so subscribe, hit the like button, do all that sort of thing, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. No, I can't do a video every day. Subscribe so you'll know when I put out the next video, and it'll probably be something that applies to you as well. Talk to you later.